I've got to avoid this. I'm going to shift my state. I've got to go eat, I've got to go drink, I've got to go do the drugs, I've got to go gamble, I've got to do whatever that kind of addiction is. I just need to get out of this state. We've been told this, right? We've been told this. It's programmed into our consciousness that stress is bad, right? Because we're programmable. When you're in that black hole and you're just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Oh, this is like, right? Oh, when we're falling in love, and we get that, all that excitement, and we become all obsessed in love, and we've got this glow that happens, right, when we're falling in love. It is not stress itself that increases our risk of disease. It is our belief around stress itself. I've got this. I've got this. And remembering that what we think about it matters. Literally, it's a case of life and death. This may be one of the most important lives I ever do for you. It's that big. It's time to reframe stress. Now, I'm guilty of being in the cohort of practitioners that have really put a huge negative emphasis, I guess, on, the negative impacts of stress over the years. And certainly about 30 years ago, in early practice, all the research back then was, stress is bad, it's going to lead to early death, it does this. I don't have to list off the rap sheet of what stress is known to do. However, the beautiful thing about time and evolution is that when you know better, you do better. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some research that's come out that has really, really helped us understand the depths of stress and actually the positive side of stress. And the reason why I believe that this live could be one of the most important lives you ever listen to is that within this research, you're going to find that how we approach stress, our mindset around stress, actually determines whether we're at risk of early death or whether we thrive through stress. And what's so beautiful about this information I'm going to share is how it really ties into us dealing with life in general so that we're not falling off the wagon, we're not getting triggered and going into our unconscious default behaviours and the habits that we've hardwired over time because of stress, largely, but that we're actually going to be able to kind of start looking at it and observing it from a whole new lens, a whole new light. And over time, we can really start working with this new approach to stress so that it becomes a well-oiled natural habit of ours and something that we naturally do. It's not really what we go through in life that really matters, that determines our reality. It's the meaning we give everything, right? And we tend to have, in any given situation, if we're kind of under a high stress environment, we'll have kind of this first type of emotions, type 1 emotions. They're the ones that are automatic, right? They come up, we get aroused, our nervous system gets activated. And then the most important one to recognize is, okay, we have this feeling of anger, anxiety, my heart's racing, I'm like in this stress response, I could potentially go into fight or flight right now. Or the other side of that is that we then go into the acknowledging the fact that there's this secondary emotion, type 2 emotions, where we're able to go, oh, okay, the emotions in type 2 is the story I'm telling myself about this situation. It's the meaning I'm giving it. So it's the type 2 reactions that we have that we can work on over time. We can work on these and we can kind of become more self-aware in those moments. So we can never stop what happens under a stressful situation. The nervous system's going to get activated. But what we can do is become self-aware enough to go, oh, what am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling stressed, I want to run, I want to escape the situation. Okay, so then what is the secondary emotions that we choose? How can I choose to see this situation differently? So back then in the clinic, I was dealing mostly with stress management. And, at the time, Queenstown was a pretty relaxed place. We were, the adventure capital of the world. Everybody had an incredible lifestyle here. Yet, guess what? I was dealing with a highly stressed kind of community here, which was really interesting to me. So, 20 years ago and even before that, obviously to lead me towards getting into stress management, we had done a lot of training around, why it is that we need to understand stress, understand the stress response in the body, and understand how chronic stress over time can lead toward complete burnout, can lead to chronic fatigue syndrome, all these kind of things that were really kind of big back then, right? And what's amazing about time and evolution and more research and science is that we've evolved away from this thought now that stress is bad, right? Now, this is important because life is freaking stressful. Come on. It's not all roses and champagne out there, is it? No. Every day we're dealing with up and down and, oh God, I've got to do that. And then the phone rings and there's this and then there's, oh, this text comes in and this shit's going down in my life. No, we can't escape stress, really. But what we can do is go, okay, stress is a normal part of life. These emotions that I'm feeling, this hyperarousal in my nervous system is actually normal. Cool. How can I develop a part of my mind that instead of telling myself, I'm so stressed out, this is like bad, I'm like in this terrible dark place right now, how can I reframe my mind to go, okay, this is normal. I'm going to take this from a threat situation to a challenge situation. So this is the reframe right here, okay? When we see a situation as a threat, different hormones in our body become activated. We will get cortisol going through the roof, it will stimulate adrenaline, we'll get epinephrine, all of those, horrible hormones will just like go boom! And our nervous system, our sympathetic nervous system gets activated into fight, flight, freeze or fawn. Now, when we know how to approach stressful situations correctly, and this is what's so brilliant about where we are now in the science and research, is that we have the ability to change the way we adapt to those situations, right? This is the good news, ladies. What we're able to do is go, oh, I can feel my heart racing, I can feel my palms starting to sweat, I can sense that this is not a comfortable situation for me. What we can do is we can reframe the threat to challenge. I'm in a challenging situation right now, right? How am I going to deal with it? When we do that, our hormonal response shifts. We actually completely change the way that our biochemistry kind of fuels our body under what we may say is stressful situations. So the reframe is, rather than going into this, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed, let me escape, let me just get out of this situation, let me go and eat, let me go and drink, let me go and try and shift my state, let me avoid these emotions that are coming up for me right now. What we can do is go, oh, flip, okay, what emotion is coming up for me? I can feel my heart racing, I can feel this stress arising. Okay, there is a challenge right here. How am I going to deal with it? How am I going to choose to deal with this situation? Because the reason why people fall into patterns of addiction and they fall off the wagon and they can't stick at anything is this gap that we've had in society growing up around kind of emotional intelligence, where we've been taught that emotions, that bad emotions need to be suppressed. We need to get rid of them because that would make us not a nice person, so I'm not going to be a good girl or a good boy. I'm going to have to appease somebody in this situation and suppress my own feelings. I don't want to feel anger or rage because I've been told that that's not a good thing to actually experience. So I'm going to experience this sense of arousal during a stressful situation, and I'm going to want to avoid that as soon as possible. And the habits that we've formed over our lifetime are the strategies to do that, right? Our mindset around stress matters, how we approach it. Now, there was a big study done by the University of Wisconsin, I think it was around 2012, and they took 30,000 adults and they interviewed them on how much stress they had experienced in the previous year. And they graded all of that. And the second question that they asked people was how they felt about stress. Did they see stress as bad? What was their belief system around stress? Now, what's interesting about this is that they then for 8 years tracked, this is kind of not funny, they tracked the public death records. And they found that people that had high levels of stress, that saw stress as a bad thing, that were trying to avoid stress, because we've been told this, right? We've been told this. It's programmed into our consciousness that stress is bad, right? Because we're programmable. So we've all bought into this belief that stress is bad. So the people that actually believed that stress was bad had a 43% increased risk of death within those 8 years. So that's really interesting. And what the researchers then looked at was the people that didn't really see stress as a bad situation. What happened to them? There was zero increased risk of death amongst those people. Isn't that fascinating? So the stress itself, in fact, out of the people that saw stress as an okay thing, something they could handle, even the ones that had a significant amount of stress, compared to the people that saw stress as bad, that had much lower levels of stress in that year, had a much better health outcome. So it is not stress itself that increases our risk of disease. It is our belief around stress itself. So how does that change the landscape? If we've been in a society where we've been taught stress is bad, you've got to get stress under control and blah, 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 maybe it's the way that we're approaching stress. And this is where this next part of what I want to say is really, really important. There's another part of stress that we're not aware of. Now, we all know about the beautiful hormone oxytocin. This is, we know about this when a mother gives birth and she's breastfeeding her baby. It's stimulating huge amounts of oxytocin, and a new mother will have huge amounts of oxytocin flooding in her body, and that is the love hormone to help us naturally bond with our children. When we're falling in love, and we get that, all that excitement, and we become all obsessed in love, and we've got this glow that happens, right, when we're falling in love. That is oxytocin. And that beautiful hormone is also present. This is interesting. A lot of people don't know this. It's also activated during a stress response. Now, this is really important. It's activated during a stress response. We know that when we cry and we allow emotion to come out, we allow ourselves to feel angry, to feel sad, to feel grief, instead of trying to, suppress it down. We know that when our tears dry, right, they turn to a powder, and our skin absorbs the different hormones within our tears, and one of them is oxytocin. And what oxytocin does is it is actually a cellular repair hormone for the heart. So our heart tissue has receptor sites. The cells in our heart have receptor sites to absorb oxytocin, and it's actually highly anti-inflammatory, and it's coming in to actually regulate and balance out our stress response. So isn't that amazing that we've often thought of the stress response as bad? So how is it that a shift in mindset might kind of shut down some of the negative hormones that are present, and how can we then focus more on the positive hormones, the positive side of a stress response, in that realm. But there are ways of when we are hyper aroused and we're feeling stressed, right? What happens is the back part of our brain gets activated and we go into this automatic stress response. But what we can do is we can learn to go, okay, I'm feeling this arousal right now. How can I sit with what I'm feeling, lean into what I'm feeling, and then bring that energy from the back of the brain into the frontal cortex of the brain, which is kind of our intelligence center, and breathe that with intention by saying, I am safe, I'm not going to die in this situation, I'm okay, I don't like this, but I know I'm going to get through. That intention, that one action in itself shifts the energy. Then we can go to the midbrain and do the same, and we're breathing in. Okay, I'm aware that I'm going down this negative stress response, but I know that I can shift this to see this as a challenge. So what happens energetically in those moments is that all of the adrenaline and all of the energy that is usually being utilized into fight or flight. So think of the flight response as avoidance, right? I've got to avoid this. I'm going to shift my state. I've got to go eat. I've got to go drink. I've got to go do the drugs. I've got to go gamble. I've got to do whatever that kind of addiction is. I just need to get out of this state, right? What we do have the capability of doing is going, okay, I'm safe. I'm actually safe, and I can reframe that from a threat response into a challenge response. And when we do that, our energy and all of our hormones respond differently to go, right, we're up for the challenge. And, you know, this is one thing that I've said for a long time, because I don't like public speaking. I get nervous every time I go live. Oh, I'm getting better. You know, I was better when I spoke at the Future of Conference conference this year, Future of Medicine conference. But my first live event, Teresa will tell you, I was having kittens. I was peaking in stress, right? And I don't know how the hell I managed to get through 2 days. There was a lot of pressure on me, but I did. And now going out in public and doing stuff like that, I still have the same feeling, but I have reframed it completely. And that reframe is, and this is interesting when we understand physiology and the energy and the feeling of stress. If we go, I'm stressed, I'm feeling anxiety right now, that energy is identical to the energy that we will feel when we're excited, right? One is, I need to avoid this situation. I can't cope with this. The other, although the energy is just as intense and really goes away, and a lot of very famous people around the world will say, I always get stage fright, I deal with this all the time, right? But they found a way to overcome it by shifting it from, I can't, this is a bad situation, into excitement. I'm excited in this moment. And to me, when we do that, there's something that I do that I guess is a bit of a spiritual approach to life and how I get through. It's going, I'm supported. I'm not on my own here. I've got angels around me. I'm okay. I'm good. You know, I think that's where spirituality and faith is really, really important, to have this critical mindset that we're all one, that we're always connected. There's something more divine and at play here, that it's not just this little me having to deal with this 3D situation in this moment, which really is irrelevant in the big scheme of our life, right? Into this place of, I'm okay. I'm going to get through, I'm going to survive. And one of the beautiful things about this, and you are able to do this even by listening to this and maybe do some journaling around this, is when you think back to, you know, some of the most stressful times in your life, and you just never thought that you could get through. And it just felt like the world was imploding on top of you, and you're in that black hole, and you're just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Oh, this is like, right? And you're down into that spiral of absolute dread and fear. But then over time, things shifted, right? And you came out. And you went from those dark times back into the light, and you during that time, you built some skills. You built some resilience, you built some courage. And so often journaling about these times can give you this, your own inner guidance system kind of book of wisdom, because coming out taught you some things. It taught you how strong you are. It taught that nothing's permanent. It taught you the cycle of life. And I think that is where wisdom is really important for us to be able to pat ourselves on the back and look at how far we've come, despite, for some of us, like me, who's chosen a very challenging life, to have challenge after challenge after challenge. But, you know, in doing this research and understanding all of this, I was really crappy at this when I was young, right? I went through so much trauma and stress in my younger years. And, you know, when I tell people my life story, they go, what? What? How? And I'm just like, yeah. But the way that I've learned to approach it is that each thing you get through, you have an opportunity to let it make you or break you. You have an opportunity to reframe the things that have happened to you in your past and give them a much deeper meaning and context. You're in the driver's seat of what you make your life mean. And so this is where the term anti-fragile kicks in, right? So it's not just that we're trying to build resilience, it's that we want to become anti-fragile. So every time we feel broken, we're building ourselves back stronger than we were before. So every challenge that we take isn't something that chips away at our life force. We don't want to give it a negative meaning of, oh, I must just not deserve this. I must be a bad person. I'm not worthy. I'm just, right? See, I told myself, right? Instead of going, oh, I can choose to see this in a totally different light right now. And I can see the lessons in this. I can accept that this was hard or is hard, but I'm going to get through. So what we tell ourselves really matters in stressful situations. And, you know, there's lots of amazing quotes that I've used over the years to get through things. But, you know, there is a time for everything and everything in its time. We always go through seasons. And, you know, while we're going through a winter, it's going to be spring, right? Spring is going to come. And so just how we approach life in general makes a huge difference to literally the biochemical responses within our body, whether they're going to create inflammation, whether they're going to lead towards death and disease, or whether they're actually going to help us thrive in life. That's it. That instant reframe for, I am stressed. You know, every time you hear yourself say that, I am stressed, and I still get guilty of that from time to time. I remember a few weeks ago I said to my daughter, I'm feeling really stressed at the moment. It's like, oh, but I heard myself say it. And I was like, hang on a minute, you got to reframe that. And this is where, you know, mindfulness and consciousness really kicks in for us. Because I was like, oh, what am I telling myself? Because everything that we tell ourselves, that we say internally and externally, is literally creating the biochemistry in our body, right? Which is creating our reality. So when I heard myself say that, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. So instead of saying, I am stressed, I am experiencing feelings of stress right now. And then we process that. We don't avoid it. We go, okay, what do I need to do, right? So last night, I've got a huge workload at the moment, getting back here. To an overgrown bloody garden and no man around to help. You know, 5 acres. It's bloody hard work up in this alpine environment. Whew. And so at 6:30 last night, I thought, no, I'm going to go outside and at least get my garden tools, which I had no idea where they were. I'm going to at least go and gather up the things that I need and go searching for things so that I can put them where they're needed. So, you know, if I want to go out and just pull some weeds, which there's a lot at the moment, then I can just go out for half an hour and it's a no-brainer. I'm trying to set myself up for a no-fail environment, right? Just put things in your environment so that they're there without having to think about them. So I ended up doing that last night. I ended up having 6 hours outside. I actually went in at 11:30 at night. We have twilight down here, but I needed that time to physically move my body, feel productive, feel like I've achieved something, to actually reorganize the pressure and the workload chemicals in my body into, oh, productivity, I'm doing something positive for myself, I'm feeling like I'm achieving something. And what was amazing is I had some beautiful insights. You know, I meditate a lot while I'm doing that, but I also give myself space to think. And I came up with some really productive ideas that had I sat for hours in front of my computer, wouldn't have happened. So, you know, being disciplined about what it is that we need in order to shift our state is really important. But again, I can't emphasize the importance of being aware of what's nature, you know, what's natural, which is we're going to get stressed. Deal with it, you know, like literally deal with it. Get over it. We're humans, right? We're going to get stressed, right? But how can I approach this differently? How can I shift this from a negative to a positive? So there was another study that was done with 1,000 adults, and they tracked these guys over 5 years. And they did the same thing. They asked, how much stress did you experience over the last year? And they graded them. And the second question they asked, now this is important. The second question was, how many of you spend, you know, time helping neighbours, helping out your community, and looking after other people, like being involved in you know, your community? And so then they tracked them for 5 years. Same thing. They looked at the, you know, the death notices. But what they found is that anybody that had a significant stress, like a financial stress or a family situation, they had an increased risk of 30% of dying. However, the cohort of people that were involved in community, that were, you know, being of service to others, you know, contributing, and that were kind of outside of themselves, had a 0 increased risk of dying. Now, one of the reasons that they believe this is to do with that is that community, connection, love, which stimulates oxytocin, right? That connecting, loving hormone helps us increase our resilience. It literally creates an increase in resilience. So I know you ladies in our community that literally use this community, right? And this is a message to people that don't engage. Get your ass in there and start engaging. This is your lifeline. Whether you're on plan or not, it doesn't freaking matter. Just get in there and connect. Because when you're of service to others, you are literally reducing your risk of stress-related death. Do you want another reason? So we've got these two factors here, right? We've got this stress response that when we reframe from this is bad, I've got to run away and avoid, into, oh, this is a challenge, I'm going to come to the community, I'm going to reach out to people that I love, because we're now accessing the oxytocin, which naturally builds this need for connection, this primal part of our being to need connection, to open up, to be vulnerable, right? This is why that stress response contains oxytocin. So when we utilize this and go, oh, okay, I need connection, instead of putting ourselves in isolation and just playing out the shit that just happened, right? I just need some connection. We are building courage. We're building courage in those moments. And when we're contributing to others, right, and participating outside of ourselves, that helps us, in terms of stress, build resilience. So this is like a magic formula, you know, and this really does, I think, go back to how we've evolved. And we have to understand that our primitive brain, created through survival, when we were having to run after the woolly mammoth, you know, run from woolly mammoths and goodness knows what else, this primitive part of our brain, you know, tells us that we're under threat. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. Whereas now, with our information, our knowledge, and our wisdom, we can start rewiring our brain, rewiring our stress response more towards courage and resilience, and instead of avoiding these situations, we can see these as opportunities to grow, to evolve ourselves, right? Now, if you think about comfort zones and what makes people successful in life as opposed to people that never freaking get it. They want it, but they never get it. There are some fundamental differences in the way that people approach life, right? And one of them is this belief that, okay, I know that I need to get uncomfortable because I'm going to push to the edge of my comfort zone. It's comfortable for me to just stay where I am. There's no need to change. I want to change, I know that I need to, but it's far more easier for me just to slip back into the automatic responses of my brain. I don't have to think, it's much easier. I don't have to do anything. I can just stay exactly where I am, right? And then we go through these periods of just going right to that edge of our comfort zone where we have to think, we have to feel, we have to try something new. And how we approach stress will make the difference of being able to push through that comfort zone or whether we're going to retreat right back into what is familiar. And, you know, a lot of you will be experiencing this. When you decide to change your life and you decide to change your lifestyle and you decide to get healthier, to learn new skills, we have to understand that it's not just a thing that we do. We have to change our entire personality. We have to change the way we approach life altogether. And we need support to do that, right? So we need to be willing to be able to go, okay, it's going to get uncomfortable when I'm on the edge of this comfort zone. But instead of seeing this as a threat and something that's negative, I can see this as a challenge. I can draw on my past resources to know I've got through challenges like this before, and I can push through that sound barrier, right? I can push through there. And knowing that I've got support and community and people around me, like we do have here in Switchaura, then that is what's going to help you take yourself from a stress threat to a challenge situation to help you grow. We need to see stressful situations as an opportunity to be more alert, because this is one of the positive things. When we shift this to a challenge situation, the biochemistry shifts all of the energy in the body to all of our senses become more heightened. We're now more aware of other people. We're more aware of what's around us. So think about this when you're in a very intense board meeting or, you know, family meeting or something like that. And you've got to have your shit together, right? If you go into that situation going, this is stressful, I can't deal with this is just, right? You're going to lose your shit. You're going to lose your personal power. You're going to just like say stupid shit. You're going to be like, it's not going to work. But if you can go into those situations going, I'm up for this challenge, all of your energy and hormones will reorganize to make you far more present, more hyper alert, so that you can think better. That energy, instead of going to your muscles to make you run like the wind or fight, will go to your brain. It will make you smarter. How's that? So I really call upon all of you to stop using the language, I am stressed, and start reframing that to, I'm experiencing levels of stress right now. How am I going to get through this? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be up for this freaking challenge. I'm going to be up for the challenge. And then we can work on the skills to be able to reprogram our system so that over time becomes an automatic thing that we're up for, right? And I think that's why some people thrive under stressful situations and pressure. I'm one of them. In fact, I kind of like being under stress and pressure. It makes me more productive. It makes me think smarter. I wouldn't want to say I'm addicted to stress, but I don't shy away from it, right? How can we go from someone that avoids it into somebody that actually thrives or can thrive under those situations? And that's the invitation. So I suggest that you go through and think about all the big shit that you've been through in your life and really look at what what helped you get through and how you felt at the other side? What are some of those skills and some of the belief systems that you can really draw upon now to go, okay, I've got this. I've got this. And remembering that what we think about it matters. Literally, it's a case of life and death. So there you go.